The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by Continental Energy Solutions. I'm Tim Montague, your co-host. Today on the Clean Power Hour, Elon Musk beats Jeff Bezos to the moon. Solar-powered robot helicopter flies on Mars. Amen. Solar-powered asparagus in France. And the North Sea is getting a new HVDC. It already has some HVDC. It's getting more. High voltage DC, it's a thing. We're going to talk about it. And electric utilities are pushing for 80% emissions cuts by 2030. I'm skeptical, but we're going to talk about it. Welcome to the Clean Power Hour. My co-host, John Weaver, commercial solar guy.
Hey, Tim. I hope everything's nice.
It's not nice. It's freezing here. It's like 40 degrees outside.
Oh, I was going to jump right into some articles, but I got some blue skies and it's like 60, dude. So I'm sorry, but
this way you're going to get some snow tomorrow.
Yeah, we got some last week just out of the blue. It was weird, but whatever. That's New England. So, I got a question for you about the HVDC.
Yeah.
This is the tough thing. Do you ever think the animals that we are, humanity, that we will come together enough to build a global electricity network that we're all sort of kind of dependent on each other for?
Yeah, I love this topic, and I'm flummoxed that the United States is seemingly very slowly dipping its toe in the HVDC world. Meanwhile, the Chinese are going hard after it. The Europeans are getting in the game in a big way. What are we waiting for? Because it seems like the writing is on the wall that this is a good technology for long distance transportation of electricity, which is, it allows potentially for a global grid, like you said. And you did find a story, so I'll put that on screen. I absolutely think that we should be talking about this in society. And it is a question, I guess, of can humans come together? And that's why I'm a big fan also of space travel and going to Mars, because it brings us together for a common cause. Whereas right now we're busy beating each other up and beating each other down and fighting amongst ourselves. And that's going to get us nowhere fast. So you found this story, let's build a global power grid. And I say, yeah, let's do it. Just loop the world in HVDC, and then you have on-demand power no matter where you are. You have on-demand solar and wind, and it greatly facilitates having 100% clean grid, in my mind, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, yeah, of course it does. Because here's the first one: the sun never sets. The sun is always circling the earth, and it's always got beaming, beautiful light hitting us at an amazing rate. So if we had a global network, then you'd always have enough electricity circling the earth. You'd have to have a few power lines. I mean, we're talking probably hundreds of gigawatts of capacity is the summation of all the global demand. I wonder if it breaks a terawatt. That'd be really interesting to know. And, giant network. And if you scroll down in this article, you can see what this gentleman has sketched out for a potential grid. And there's some others out there as well.
Nice little sketch there of what that looks like. And
so
it's not that radical, John. It's totally doable, right? You just connect Russia to Alaska, and you connect Nova Scotia to Greenland and Iceland, and jump over to Northern Europe. No big deal.
I think this is a little short. Like, for instance, South America should be connecting to Africa, and Australia, maybe, I know that's a long run, but maybe Australia should also be trying to connect, maybe split in the middle of the ocean and go to South America and North America. And in Europe, why doesn't Europe just go straight over the top, or Russia straight over the top? Maybe, but I'm sure these folks have run it. They know the populations, but we're going to need a few more strings in here to just make things a little more efficient, maybe. But, we have the math. We know how to do it. That's not a question. The question is, when are we going to make a judgment call? When are we going to have the need? When are we going to piss ourselves off enough? When are we going to see all the energy we use? I mean, I think there's a next level of us. You talked about before the show, you were chatting about a Dyson sphere. that's when we literally circle the entirety of the sun in a giant solar panel and just extract all of its energy. And that's billions of times more electricity than the whole planet uses in terms of energy. And when we get to that point, when we have metal 3D printers, and when individuals are launching rockets and flying at 1,000 miles an hour, we're going to have majorly different energy needs. I don't know what's going to push us to do that stuff, but maybe another war, maybe just amazing technology. Hopefully it's amazing technology that pulls us forward and says, okay, we got to do it. Let's stop being assholes to each other. That story came up because, very, very short reference, Germany and Norway completed a 500-ish mile long HVDC power line so that they could exchange excess wind and hydro. And it's just going to optimize the electricity usage between the two. And so I thought that was cool. The pictures are neat, just always inside of these HVD facilities. There's always just really cool hardware. Yeah, so 516. Now you got to click on it right there in the, not the press release, the hall, the two bottom ones, the DC hall and the valve hall. Yeah, those two right there. Oh, a little bit down. Two more. That one.
Okay.
Oh,
wow.
That's just cool gear. Just big. And it's always huge in these HVDC facilities. There's just big, giant, clunky chunks of metal. And I think it's neat. And I guess it's these conversion stations that are super expensive to transfer electricity from AC to DC. These buildings, they have to build them, and they just cost a lot of money. Yeah, this one. Love this. This doesn't look real. I don't think it is. I think this is a faked image, and it's this is actually an alien super cruiser, and that's its weapon system. That's its laser weapon system.
It does pretty much look like science fiction.
Yeah.
And what we were touching on though with that Dyson sphere, John, is the Kardashev scale, right? And a type 1 civilization on the Kardashev scale is one that captures all of the energy available to it. So that's where the Dyson sphere comes in, right? And my concern about artificial general intelligence, John, is that it will realize, hey, in order for me to go interplanetary, I need to go photonic. And so I just need energy. And it will coat the Earth with solar panels, and we're just like cockroaches. And then it will coat the sun in solar panels, and then it will go, see ya, I'm out of here. And, having flesh and blood is not very practical when you're trying to go interplanetary. And that's why I don't want to go to Mars, because it's a one-way trip. Now, like we talked about a couple episodes ago, maybe when I'm an old man, but we need thousands of young people who want to go to Mars and basically stay there and colonize it and start a new civilization. But we digress. Yep. HVDC, it's a good thing. Is supercooling a necessity for HVDC?
I don't know that answer. I don't. Yeah. I haven't read about it. Yeah, I don't think so, because I've been reading about the Chinese. I've been reading about other work. I don't think supercooling. I think cooling matters, but I don't think supercooling.
I mean, I know that as you cool materials, they do become more conductive, and so that is one way to produce resistance-free transportation of electrons. But yeah, HVDC, it's got to happen. And it's just weird that America is a conundrum to me. We are on the bleeding edge of technology in so many ways, and we are the inventors of technology, like the internet and like Google and Facebook and Twitter and Amazon. And so we're this fountain of innovation, but sometimes we're slow to adopt new technology that is just staring us in the face. I'm going, what are we waiting for?
Big questions. People earn PhDs answering that question. What the heck is wrong?
I tell my son, life is a game. There's no intrinsic meaning to life. It's whatever meaning we give it. And you can choose to level up. You can choose to minimize suffering and maximize enjoyment. And that's kind of what Elon is trying to do. And that's why I really appreciate Elon. He's not perfect. He is a crazy man. And, and we're going to talk about SpaceX and the moon. But before we do that, let's check out the video of the Ingenuity doing its first powered flight on Mars. Thanks for digging this up, John. This is a goodie. If I can get the full screen. There we go. It's not easy. The atmosphere is only 1% the density of the Earth's atmosphere, so those rotors have to spin super fast. And
gravity's lesser too, though, so that helps.
Gravity is a third, so that does help.
Look at that. Just a little flying robot on another planet, dude.
Pretty awesome. I saw the control room, all those engineers watching the data feed, and they were just jumping up and down for joy. So that was cool.
Solar panels. They're made by a company, I think, in New Mexico. They're 33% efficiency, multi-junction layer, lithium-ion battery. Pretty cool.
Yeah. New Mexico, huh?
Yeah, New Mexico or Arizona. Southwest.
And SpaceX is in the news because they were awarded the NASA contract for the Artemis program, which is Artemis was the sister of Apollo, apparently. I'm no expert on Greek mythology, but the Artemis program is a NASA program to go back to the moon. And it's been 50 years now, John. So it's high time, right?
You casually said, oh, SpaceX is in the news. It should have been something closer to, holy shit, dude, we're going to the moon again. We're going to put people on the moon, and they're going to walk around and touch stuff, and they're going to pick up rocks, and they're going to make videos and all kinds of stuff like that. That's how you should have announced that. That's just my opinion. I'm saying.
Well, you did it for me, so it's all good. I don't know if we'll get to that hopefully in this video, but the moon lander that SpaceX is proposing is way bigger than either the Blue Origin or the third competitor. I can't remember the name of that company off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
But and those other programs, so to speak, or there it is, Dynetics. Dynetics is on screen now. Dynetics was quite popular among space enthusiasts, and this is the Blue Origin lander, which got dinged for being not so reusable. But it was the price tag, John.
Ooh, look at that.
The price tag for the Blue Origin was like $10 billion, and the price tag for SpaceX is $3 billion. So,
and I would also bet that the probability of SpaceX delivering is much higher than either of those companies, if only SpaceX has a profitable, ongoing, regular, learning, blowing up sometimes program. I don't know the Dynetics group. However, I've read recently about the Bezos team actually having some challenges because they moved quickly from one system size and they skipped an iteration size or two. And then they were having trouble executing at the larger size. And I think that larger size may have been for this particular program. I can't remember the exact article. So SpaceX was probably not only the cheaper, but the safer choice. And that's pretty sweet. Elon is now the safe bet.
Yeah, and that's been a hallmark of SpaceX winning NASA contracts, is that they are driving down the cost of going to space and putting payloads in space. That's the bottom line. And money talks. This is an expensive sport. Elon says we should spend 1% of our GDP on space and colonizing Mars. And I think it's a good investment, right? Because the killer asteroid will eventually hit Earth. The evidence is undeniable that this has happened before and will happen again. And so having a backup for humanity on another planet and eventually maybe another star system would be a good thing. We just have to figure out how to go photonic like the AGI is going to do. And
I think we're going to put the AGI inside of us.
Yeah, that's what Elon says. Neuralink, right? If you can't beat him, join him. And I hope he's right about Neuralink being the answer. Would you get Neuralink if it was available for consumers?
So here's how it's going to occur. That guy on Wall Street who wants to make the first 10 billion, going to do it. That military professional, going to do it. That video gamer, going to do it. That race car driver, going to do it. That spaceship, that airplane flyer, going to do it.
Yeah.
That person who's paralyzed, they're going to do it. That scientist who's looking to parse data, up and down, there's species benefiting reasons for doing it. And the military is going to do it. It's already happening. I mean, we are probably chuckling, laughing about, oh, how Neuralink might work, when in reality, it's that it's already happening at 50,000 feet. There's airplanes flying that we don't know about that have, low-end invisibility. Electromagnetic disruption is what they call it instead of invisibility. So it doesn't, and it's happening now. We have a quantum computer, even though it's not perfect, it's been running D-Wave. We have science fiction in the hands of the few. And I think Neuralink exists. We've been moving computer cursors with monkeys for 20 years, dude. We have people with robotic legs and arms that is straight to their brain. This has been going on for 10, 15 years, and these are normal people. The U.S. military, there's budgets there that are different. There's motivations there that are different, and there's no medical board examiners, peer review process. There's no public judgment calls. Hey, you can't do that to that guy. Well, that guy's like, hell yeah, do it to me. I need to go kill some bad guys. It's happening. And it's going to be like every other technological divide, every other decision. At what point are we no longer human? At what point are we the robot?
So do you want to be a superhuman? Do you want to have Neuralink?
Yeah. There's so much data out there to keep this species alive that, you know what I want? When I start getting old, build me a super satellite, stick my brain in it and my head in it, strip away everything else, and shoot me into space as fast as you can. And I'll send back as much research as I can and be your brain satellite spaceship going to Alpha Centauri. I mean, we're going to have a lot to do in this universe, and this planet will be done in 1 million years. We don't have 5 billion years on this planet. There's 1 million years of life on this planet.
You think we'll go to other star systems with a physical spacecraft?
First off, I don't know Jack, but yeah.
It just takes a few thousand years, right?
Yeah, with our current understanding of how things work. We are not at the end of knowledge. I don't know what the end of knowledge will be, but we're not at the end of it.
Do you know how many light years Alpha Centauri is away?
4.3.
4.3?
Yeah.
Okay.
Closest.
So if you were photonic, if you could travel the speed of light, you could go there in 4 years. So that's the challenge, right? How do you go super fast? And the laws
of Proxima Centauri. Sorry, I just interrupted you.
The laws of physics say that you can't do that in a physical body, right? You can't go the speed of light. You could go so close to it theoretically, but
the laws of physics that we grasp and
right,
used.
which is pretty feeble. I understood. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people talk about wormholes. I don't know if they're real, but I don't know. The universe, there's much we don't know. I'm going to say that. That's all I can stand on. I can't stand on anything else other than science fiction. And hey, here's an idea.
And that's why I support the Large Hadron Collider, and we should be going after that research hard as well. We need to, yeah, like you said, we don't know jack still. We don't understand dark matter and dark energy almost at all, and that's the vast majority of what's in the universe. So
maybe.
So let's talk about the utilities. They say they want the Biden administration to implement policies to cut emissions 80% by 2030. Do you think that's real?
Yeah. I mean, we've already cut emissions 50% from 2005.
No, I'm not asking if it's technically feasible. What I'm asking is, do the utilities genuinely want to make the transition?
Yes. And the reason they want, they do. Many of them because renewables are cheaper and they want some government money to support their shift, as well a kick in the ass so that they can go to the local politicians and be like, hey, we got no choice. El Presidente did it. Instead of having to deal with the local voters, like we talked about last week, where Wyoming said they're going to sue everybody for making laws against coal. So we could probably get 20% more emissions cut by shifting the rest of our coal to gas, and then probably another 10%, 20% with our just continual moving of wind and solar over the next 10 years. That's what would occur. That might do it. Get rid of coal. We're halfway there. Continue with the current movement of wind and solar. We're the other half there by 2030.
Yeah. What is CES in this article? It references that many times, but I don't see a definition.
Clean energy standard.
Okay. And so that includes probably wind, solar, and nuclear.
Correct. Hydro.
I see Exelon's name here. Exelon is heavily invested in nuclear. They have 6 nuclear power plants in Illinois that they're trying to prop up with subsidies. They've already effectively propped up 2 of them. Now they're trying to get the other 4 across the finish line. But my issue with the utilities in my home state is that they are muddying the water. We already have some great clean energy legislation in the form of the Path to 100 and the Clean Energy Jobs Act. And now they've thrown their hat in the ring with a Union Jobs Act, which, yes, it got the support of the unions who are, making many jobs at coal and nuclear plants in Illinois. And I want jobs, but I want clean energy jobs. So I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence about this union jobs bill personally, because I just think it muddies the water and makes it more difficult for the legislators to wrap it up and tie it with a bow, right? And drive it forward, because we have a real problem right now. Our industry in Illinois is on a pause. We don't have available renewable energy credits for solar or wind. And so the sooner we can get the new legislation, the sooner those monies will flow again and we can get back to business. And on that note, if you're a developer and you're looking for an EPC, please reach out to me, because we are looking for work anywhere in the United States. We will follow a good developer, and we do very high quality construction. So any more to say about this story, John?
I know that Exelon is pushing it because they see a path to get incentives for their nuclear facilities.
And it's just, I'm not totally anti-nuclear. I understand that. I mean, we get half our grid power from nuclear in Illinois, right? So we're completely dependent on that technology. Those are Gen 2 reactors. We're now into Gen 4 technologically. There are Gen 3 reactors being built mostly in China. China has like 20 nuclear power plants under construction. I didn't realize this until I heard a podcast recently about this. And the problem with the Gen 2s is that they do occasionally blow up. Chernobyl and Fukushima Daiichi in Japan. And when you actually hear the list of accidents, it's a long laundry list of accidents that we've had with Gen 1 and Gen 2. And so I just think that we have to figure out the technology for storing the waste first. We haven't done that yet. We've really struggled to find long-term storage facilities for the waste. And so most of it is stored on site. And the on-site storage is just, it's at risk. It's at risk of terrorist action and leakage into the ground and, and all kinds of potential problems. So we need to figure out the long-term storage problem, and then nuclear will be great.
I think the storage problem is politics. I don't think it's technology.
Well, they wanted to put it at WIP in southern New Mexico, which was underground caverns in the salt formations. They ended up building WIP, and then they ended up having a nuclear fire underground, and they had to entomb the thing in concrete. So, yeah, it's
well, it worked.
Is it a technology problem? I don't know. I mean, they had a serious accident there.
They did.
And then there's Yucca Flats, which has never really gotten off the ground. It's not only the actual facility, it's getting the waste from the source to the facility on rail or truck. And people don't want it going through their neighborhood because of the potential for an accident and bad things happening. So the concerns with nuclear are legit. Did you see the story about the Japanese wanting to take all that radioactive water and dump it into the ocean?
It's not really that radioactive. We're talking micro sieverts. So, I mean, yes, it's radioactive, but it would maybe increase the local water level a tiny bit, but not in any manner that you should have to worry about.
Well, there was a massive outcry from the West.
That's fine. Headlines are all about.
I'm not talking about consumers who don't know anything. I'm talking about governments who do know something. So
I don't know.
I think the concerns about the Japanese plan are legit. And
I don't. I don't think from what I've read, no. Not a worry. Not for me.
Well, I'll trade you. You can move to Illinois and I'll move to Massachusetts.
No.
So the French are going to grow asparagus under a solar greenhouse. And I love asparagus. I say, why not?
Well, first off, this article is real neat because they get into some of the details, and that's really useful. They also talk about operations, and that's really why I kind of like this article a little more. They delve into like some of the various challenges, not too deep, but get into varied things going on inside and how it alters managing this. They talked about shadows. They talked about how to move the light. They talked about ventilation, the environment. They talked about volumes of generation, and they're doing more experiments. And so have you ever heard the word consilience? It's a book I read. It's about combining ideas and sciences over time. And consilience starts with the letter C, CONSILIENCE. And what it is, it was real popular when we were talking about combining the different physics into the 3 or 4 main physics branches we have. And it turned out that, magnetism and electricity were really the same thing, electromagnetism. And so that's called consilience, when magnetism and electricity were combined with a set of equations. And solar electricity plus food production feels like a consilience. a combination of various energy generation techniques coming together in a single technological application. And so watching every one of these articles that comes out and says, okay, we're now making berries, we're making apples, we're making asparagus, we're doing mushrooms. There's a list of them. I have a list on my Twitter account of just various, 10 plus, 20 plus, not hamburgers, whatever, all kinds of stuff. We don't grow hamburgers, but there was bifacial panels at McDonald's once. So somehow that got in my head. But I really am fond of solar plus food. It checks political things. It works people's heads where they're worried about losing farmland. And there's just something about it. There's something about the stability of it. And, I like the idea of indoor farming in urban areas because it removes the need for travel and it allows for ultra focused, ultra refined farming. But I also like this because it's a combo of big open land with some structure. And we can use some light and some natural light and some electrical, and we can power it internally. We can heat it with the solar on site. So there's just a lot going on for it there from my perspective. I really like these concepts.
Do they talk about the cost of the asparagus? Is it good for the end product? I don't know what the economics are. Clearly it's a shade crop. I think of asparagus as a spring crop, right? It likes low light conditions. And, but yeah, I'm just curious.
Well, the only one that I remember a price on was an indoor lettuce farm that was in Netherlands. I think it was in the Netherlands. And they talked about it being 20 to 30%, maybe 20 to 40% more expensive for lettuce. Mm-hmm. When I have directly solicited a shipping container farming company that's based in Boston, and I think it's owned by, or Kimball Musk bought a few of their units. Can't remember their name right now. But they were at a premium of like 20, 30% over all the different greens. And I eat a lot of greens now, so I'm conscious of the number. And I'm like, oh, okay, that about makes sense. And so a little more expensive to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I would pay 20% more.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to cover a couple of your blog posts. You did one on the Trina Vertex. Solar panel innovation is much more than efficiency. I'm glad you're saying this because you tend to beat the efficiency drum, but it is much more than efficiency.
Yeah, efficiency for me is just a big highlight because it's like cool, shiny. Here's a number, rah. But I'm learning more and more about shipping. I'm learning more about staging. I'm learning more about wiring, and it's complex. There's an interplay of things going on here. And this is a balance of our conversation we had last week. We were talking about solar panel size, and specifically, I wanted to bring up the image that's at the bottom of this article, where we get to see how well they size their solar panels to fit a shipping container. Look at that. There's no space. That's maximizing shipping container sizing.
Yeah.
And that's part of the calculation. That's part of their sizing. And I happen to think that I think that whoever calculates shipping based upon this calculation right here, I think they're sizing based on this calculation. And then they go to that pickup truck calculus that you put out there, which I really like. A solar panel can get up to, but not bigger than the size of a pickup truck. That would jive so well with our market. And I'm super interested in it. And there's going to be continued shuffling for the next year or 3 or 5 as we come to a few standards. Longy is pushing the 182 millimeter solar cell standard. Trina and others are pushing the 210 millimeter standard. And the 210, I just have an emotional logic because 210 millimeters represents the 6 or 8 inch silicon wafer size that the global chip industry uses. So if the solar industry can get our silicon hardware the same size as the computer chip industry, there could be some benefits for us. I do believe the chip industry is moving up to like a 15-inch solar cell, a 15-inch silicon cell. So maybe we'll be left behind. But I like the Trina push for 210 just because it aligns with the global size, the global market. And it seems like we could get a little benefit there. But we're now big enough where we are the music maker, where we make the markets, where we make the hardware. And that's pretty cool.
And then you've got a story about the Pennsylvania solar market, Pennsylvania solar farm land lease rates, Q&A with John Weaver. What is going on in Pennsylvania?
Well, we'll start there. Better. Yeah. Pennsylvania is just moving through politics, moving through work, figuring out the laws that they're going to do. And they've had multiple community solar laws put in. The state recently said half of their electricity will come from solar, about 100 to 200 megs worth. There's multiple attempts to get more solar to increase the state's clean energy standard, because right now it's like there's less than a gig of solar installed in the whole state, and this is a 12 million person state. So there's laws moving forward, and if you scroll up, it showed Senate Bill 427 was recently submitted, or 472. That's the most recent one that was submitted. So, we're looking to see what's coming next. We're looking to see what's going to get signed, how they're going to refine this law. We don't have anything real yet. But what I decided to do, we get lots of questions, lots of phone calls to Jason Klein. He's our landman that's focused in PA. And we just wanted to answer some of the questions online because we wanted to give people the data. Because we know, they're like, call for a lease rate. Call for this, call for that. That's a good sales technique because then you can pull the person in if you're nice and charming. But I decided I got to put some data out there just to make people happy. So this is a very high level rule of thumb for what you, a landowner in Pennsylvania, should be seeing. Some questions you might have, what solar developers want to do. And it's just super high level, hardware, lease, taxes, how you can see it, grazing, who installs, concrete, costs, dollar amounts, that type of stuff. I just wanted to put an informational post out there because people are calling. So thanks for the advertising, Tim. Got commercial solar guy shout out.
The long and short of community solar here in Illinois, we have 111 community solar projects now in Illinois. Some of them are still under construction. Is that the landowner can triple their income, and then you're converting the land to solar farm. The land is resting. It's turning into organic farm ground. It's not hurting the land. It's just steel piles driven into the ground. Some buried cable. Okay, the cable can be pulled out at the end of life. And so it's very environmentally friendly. And then, as you pointed out with that photo of those vertical sun for all, or what's the name of that vertical racking system?
Next to sun, NEXT, the number 2 sun. Yeah.
And, we may see some of that coming in as well. So you can maintain 90+% of the ground for production if you really want to. Here in Illinois, my issue is that here in Illinois, for example, we have prime farm ground, some of the best farm ground in the world, but we're using it for corn and beans. And most of that is going to products like corn syrup, that really aren't that good for us. And yeah, it's lucrative. It's a cash crop. Okay, I get it. And it has made many landowners very wealthy, but the economics of farming are now broken. 30% of farm income in corn and bean farm country is government subsidies. So it's highly subsidized just to make the economics work, which tells me that there's an opportunity for disruption. I want to see us growing more, vegetables, stuff that we actually consume, and sweet corn can be grown here too. But, it's a lot of feed corn for cattle and other livestock. So I think we need to relax a little bit about, changes in the land. And some farmers are up in arms that we want to put solar farms on their farm fields, but I think they should probably get used to that idea And it's good. It's good for the farmers.
So here's one for you. 1 square mile of corn converted to ethanol and then used to make electricity would be about 1.8 gigawatt hours a year. I mean, we wouldn't do that because it'd be really inefficient with the extra conversions, but 1 square mile of solar PV would generate 260 gigawatt hours a year. So like 130 times more. Now, here's this little factoid I found last week. In the US, we use 50,000 square miles of corn production for ethanol. If we turn those 50,000 square miles into solar electricity, we would make double the amount of electricity we use in the United States. So before some person really tries to argue with me and says, hey, you shouldn't be taking away that farmland for energy, I'm going to be like, hey, you've already taken away 50,000 square miles for energy. Yep. And you're doing it dumb in a foolish and efficient manner. So let's work on this, folks.
Yeah, biofuels are not the way to go. Clearly,
it's more welfare. Biofuels are farmer welfare. I mean, that's what it is. And it's, we have our logic for it, but right now it's not an efficiency thing. It's not an environmentally sound thing. It's a way for us to take care of, well, probably more rich farmers than poor farmers.
Yeah. So moving on, I found a nice story about a large off-grid solar and storage project, a 30 megawatt solar and storage project developed by BayWa Re. BayWa is a well-known German developer. They have an arm here in the United States. The project is in Mali, West Africa. It's a gold mine, literally. So they're digging stuff out of the earth and refining it. And now they're going to be powering that operation with clean electrons from a solar array and storing them in a big battery and reducing their CO2 footprint by 39,000 tons per year. So that seems like a good thing. And I just love it that it's the largest off-grid solar and storage project now. Plenty of larger projects, right? Grid connected solar and storage or wind and storage projects, but for off-grid.
That's pretty cool. This is a 15.4 megawatt hour battery. It's going to offset 13 million liters of heavy oil, so dirty oil. And it allows them to shut off 3 out of 6 generators. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That's
less air pollution, more clean electrons.
Yeah, that's neat. And this is off grid. The numbers, the financials here are probably great. It does point to some financial limitations though, because I've always been taught that off-grid oil is super expensive for shipping reasons. However, if they stopped at 15.4 megawatt hours and they only shut off 3 of the 6 generators, there's some calculus that occurs. The batteries aren't big enough or aren't cheap enough because this is a 24-hour mine. So the batteries aren't cheap enough, but the solar is in order to whack it during the day. So there still needs to be some work on the battery cost to completely turn this facility off. And I bet if they had a 100 megawatt hour battery system at 25 or $200 per kilowatt hour, they might be able to make something happen. That's interesting. I would love to see the numbers and why they chose the particular size, didn't go bigger. I know it's economic. I just want to see why. I'd love to see those numbers.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
So the story of D.E. Shaw and Ranger Power. This is, only really of interest to me and people in the Midwest. So bear with me, but D.E. Shaw is David Shaw. He is a computer scientist trained at University of California, San Diego, where I did my undergraduate. And that's one of the things that I like about David Shaw. But he became a professor. He went on to graduate school at Stanford and then became a professor at NYU. And then he started a hedge fund and became a billionaire. And he hires a lot of computer scientists and what they call quants. He was dubbed the king of quants. And but he doesn't just hire computer science geeks. He hires liberal arts majors as well. He discovered that quants are great, but just smart people make good hedge fund managers. And but he then branched out and he does molecular dynamics. He has a company dedicated to the pharmaceutical industry, discovering new drugs using molecular dynamics, where you're basically modeling at the molecular level how different chemicals interact with one another. He used to recruit people from the Beckman Institute, where I worked at the University of Illinois. That's another reason I got to know about D.E. Shaw. And they have a renewable energy arm, though, called DESRI for short. And they're developing a 240 megawatt project in Michigan with Ranger Power. And this story on screen now is from Yahoo Finance. And the story incorrectly says that, oh, that's not the story. Where's the story? There's the story. The story incorrectly says that Ranger is based in Chicago. They are not based in Chicago. They may have an office in Chicago now, but they're based in New York City. But Ranger Power has been developing utility scale solar here in the Midwest. And this is a nice project. It's 240 megawatts in DTE. And, you know, Michigan has a struggling DG market. Everybody is, you know, waiting with bated breath for new and better legislation, I think, to come to Michigan so that we have rooftop and behind the meter and community solar. But for now, it's mostly a utility scale market. And 240 megawatts. It's going to power 43,000 homes. So the King of Quants is doing good things for planet humanity and cleaning our air here in the Midwest. And I'm grateful to David Shaw for that.
I think it's cool that we have such smart people in our industry.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember, I can't remember her name right now, but she is a literal rocket scientist. And she works for Next Tracker. Dr. I can't remember her name at all. It's for the longest time, but it was just cool when I was like, we stole a rocket scientist. It's, you know, that's neat.
Yeah.
Speaking of
rocket scientists,
this video of how wind turbine installations with lift trucks, you need to be a rocket scientist to make a ship that lifts itself up out of the ground. I mean, this is cool. It's a jack-up ship is what this is called. Yeah. And it's going to jack itself up out of the ocean. There we go. So now it's driving the piles. It's gaining some stability. Oh my gosh. How cool is that, dude?
That is awesome.
Just so neat. And then it builds the wind turbine. I mean, this is cool. This is just cool construction. You know, pick up that whole thing. Ka-thunk, lift, swing, deposit. And it's always neat. You see along the edges, there's like, it's circled with bolts, and the bolts are the size of a dinner plate, the size of a tire of a car. Oh, there goes the nacelle. So that's pretty much a school bus sized.
Yep.
It just looks like a little tiny thing, but that's a school bus up there. Now they're going to start adding on some turbine blades, which is kind of neat because you got these really long blades. I mean, these are a football field long, and they're just going to plug them right in. Ka-think. It's just cool. Very cool stuff. This boat floating on top of the water. There you go. You got a turbine blade.
So this works in relatively shallow water. I wonder how they do I guess with the deep sea, they build a platform in a dock and then they drag it out to sea.
Well, you can say that, but we've only got like literally two floating turbines in the world. One which is high wind, not turbines, but floating turbine plants. And one of them is high wind, which is located in Scotland. And the other is off the coast of Spain or Portugal. And the total number of units is like 8. So yes, as of right now, we build them in port and we drag them out. And but that's going to evolve. We may do it that way forever. Who knows? I have no idea. But it lines up perfectly with this next article. And that's why I put them together. Because first off, the article really talks about a long report. And that's a cool image. And so this is future stuff, pricing, all things getting bigger. They see a 17 megawatt unit by 2035. There's been a 15 megawatt unit already sold. So that's probably conservative. We'll probably have 17 megawatts sold by 2025. And by 2030, we'll be up to 20 megs being sold is a guess. I'm just throwing some stuff out there. But what's more interesting is not this tweet, but the very next tweet in the series. And it's where, no, go back. You're there. Scroll down a little bit. So here is a chart. Click on this chart. This report is actually an interview of a whole bunch of wind industry experts saying, what do you think is going to happen in the future? And so that's why you saw that previous chart. They're like, oh, in 2035, we're going to have this. It's going to cost this. And, these are the smart people, you and me, Tim, the smart people that know stuff. And they gave out all these ideas. And you see these different colors, like the reds, the blues, the greens. And the greens are like the lowest price, the best percentile, the cheapest, the fastest. The people who are like, listen, I'm going to be a little on the edge. Here's my suggestion. And guess what? They were all wrong. Those little lines that you see, they beat them all by 5 or 10 years. Like they were all the professionals who were like, I'm going to give a nice, good number so that the scientists can do some good research. They were all wrong. We're always wrong. We always shortchange the progression, the price drop, the scale. It seems because we always ask sober, smart, conservative people, so what do you see in the future? Oh, it won't be that much different, just a little different. And if you say something's going to be real different, you're a weirdo who gets put onto the fringe shows. But the weirdos keep being right. And that I kind of like. And so we were wrong, and we're going to be wrong again. We're going to underestimate the transition. We're going to overestimate the pricing. We're going to underestimate the innovation. And so that just kind of excites me to see how wrong we are. I like us being wrong.
The long and short of it is that offshore wind is becoming cost competitive. It's a huge resource, and the ocean is very big. 70% of the earth is covered in water. So we're going to need lots of wind power to make the clean energy transition. My question really, John, is when will humanity really wake up and stop worrying so much about the near-term cost of the transition versus the long-term savings of avoiding climate chaos? Like that, in my mind, is super expensive. Having more frequent and bigger storms, droughts, fires, etc. I mean, that is just off the charts expensive compared to, let's just do it with the technology. Let's install those 70 gigawatts a year that we need to make the clean energy transition by 2030 or 2035 and do it and be done.
One thing that needs to change is that we need to recognize that fossil interests are paying our politicians to lie. I mean, that's it. If we don't accept this reality and we don't do something about it, we're just, we're sticking it to the libs because that's cool politics and, you know, roll some coal. That's just immaturity. It's being afraid of reality is what it is. And I don't know what it is. I think it'd be jobs. You know, I saw the coal mining union say, we're okay with the renewable change if you help us get coal mining, if you help us get mining jobs that help mining renewables. Great. Coal industry has lots of rare earth elements in it. All those coal areas has some rare earth. And start digging it, boys. Go for it. Just, you know, quit lying about the pollution. And I'll help you out all day long.
Yeah, there's going to be lots of mining going on still, just different kinds.
That's
hopefully
it.
Hopefully not mountaintop removal, but agreed. Mining is just going to grow as we see the writing on the wall that batteries are going to explode and we're going to need a lot of them.
Yep.
So you found a story about white paint, and it doesn't sound very exciting, but maybe there's an exciting story here underneath that.
Come on, Tim.
The whitest paint is here, and it's the coolest, literally.
So this paint is so white, it will cool the structure. It will absorb heat from the building and push it out into the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
So current whites will reflect some, and they talk about it in here in this article. And they say, you know, current whites, well, there you go. Paints on the market that are designed to reject heat reject 80 to 90% of sunlight and can't make a surface cooler. This paint reflects, I don't know, 98.1% and actually sends away, it will absorb heat from the structure, from the inside, and shoot the heat away because of the way the infrared light, it projects so much white light. It's probably a public nuisance to look at this. It, like, you probably can't paint this on a building next to a highway because people will look at it and like crash because it'll be like, but I don't know this. Yeah, look at the dude. He's even wearing sunglasses in the picture. That doesn't even look like a real picture. It looks like somebody.
Say it's good for the sunglass industry because if we paint our buildings with this stuff, yes, we're going to want to wear sunglasses, and I already wear sunglasses because my eyes are sensitive to the light. But
that's that.
But the long and short of it is that we're going to save money by putting this stuff in the built environment, is because our buildings are going to be more energy efficient. Is that the story?
That's one angle. There's another angle where we paint this material all over our roofs and our building facades, and we get much higher bifaciality. I want my white TPO roof to have this super white product painted over it. And I bet you'll jack up my solar generation. That's really why I liked it.
Yeah.
You looking at that robot video?
Yeah, we're going to bring the robots back.
I think this is a really old video. I just saw it pop up again.
Yeah, they but they got the right idea here. And you know, as I mentioned last week, we need so many solar farms that we're gonna need robots. There's not enough labor to install all these solar farms. So we're gonna need to automate solar farm installation. And there'll still be a need for an army of people to come behind the robot and do the wiring and the fine work and the QA/QC and torquing the bolts and there's lots of work here for humans. It'll be a team effort, right? So, are you seeing the screen now?
Nope. No robots.
There we go.
Now we got some robots. So these First Solar panels, they look like First Solar.
Yeah, I don't know. They do look like thin film. They've got that very uniform look.
Just neat ideas, neat concepts.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Good think.
Yep.
Nice little pre-wiring. You got the cables hanging. You can see everything underneath connected. Clink. Bam. Push. You can see the racking buckle a little bit there. I wonder if there's some stabilization challenges where you have all this force coming out, but the racking's not really designed for that sort of pushing.
Yeah, it's interesting that these robotic solar panel installers were a thing a few years ago. There was kind of a flurry, but I haven't seen like an actual application recently. And so maybe it's like Elon discovered, too many robots, not a good thing.
When, we got to work on what we pay our local labor. And if we're paying them 40,000, $20 an hour, that's too low. We got to have people who can have some careers. And what happens when you pay people fairly, you pay somebody 72K, 60K, the robots and the headache of dealing with the robot becomes worth it. That's how it works. If labor is too cheap, it probably means we're underpaying them and there's some innovation that's being left on the table. I don't know, maybe. Especially in the United States, it feels that way.
Yep. So our last story of the hour today is about the Long Island Railroad trying out battery-powered trains. I look at this train and I kind of cringe because it doesn't look very modern, but that is the status of trains in America. We just aren't quite there with the Europeans and the Chinese when it comes to modern trains. But why is this a big deal?
It's the first battery-powered train in the United States, and it's a lot of tracks are electrified, so we don't need electric trains. But there are many places where trains go from electrified rail to just standard rail, and this is one of those cases where they have a few diesel trains and they want to convert them to standard electric trains. What they're going to do is put a battery on the train so that it can get through the areas that are non-electrified.
We call that ride through.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it can ride through the non-electrified areas and charge on the third rail.
I'm making fun. That is an expression in the battery industry, but
okay.
It's a double entendre or something like that, right? In this case, because literally the train is going to ride through the de-electrified area.
Yep.
With its electric battery.
Yep. Yep.
Good concept. So, I like it.
Yeah. And it's, these batteries are local around people. They give off pollution or sorry, the diesel generators are around people. They give off pollution. And it's, we can quiet up some trains, and that's not bad. And, it really amazes me that this might be literally the first battery powered train, but I guess tracks are electrified. So that's not really that significant. I just thought it was a little interesting.
Yep. Okay. Well, that's a wrap. How can our listeners reach you, John Weaver, commercial solar guy?
Come visit my site, submit a contact submission, type into Google commercial solar guy. I'm all over the tubes. That's my website. And there's a contact us form. We can build projects for you in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. We can give you consulting services anywhere. We can give you advice. Got a long list of things we like to do, and got a lot of partners who are smart, financially supported, that we can help you do things with. We're even working on really big projects these days, slightly, ever so slightly, but really big projects. So it's neat to be hanging around professionals that are highly experienced. I'm learning, just listening. I get to learn so much. It's so great.
And you can find me at cesnrg.com/events or /podcast. I do a live podcast every month in the last Tuesday of the month. So next week, we're hosting Peter Kelly Detweiler on the show to talk about his new book, which is called The Energy Switch. and it's all about how society is transforming the grid and access to the grid. So looking forward to that with Peter Kelly Detweiler. And then if you just go to the podcast link, you find all of our Clean Power Hour content there at cesnrg.com/podcast, where John and I are bringing you the latest and greatest clean energy news. Please subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and please make comments. We love to hear from our listeners. What is it that you want to hear about? What is so important to you, and who should we be bringing on the show besides Meyer Burger? And we will be bringing you Meyer Burger. We've talked about this. It is coming, so stay tuned for that. I want to thank my co-host, John Weaver, and the Commercial Solar Guy for another great episode. Thanks, everybody, and let's grow solar and storage.